If you like pecan pie and chocolatey creamy fudge, then my family's chocolate pecan pie recipe is for you. And I can say, as a professional baker and chef, I promise this is one of the easiest pies that you'll ever make. We're going to start out with 4 cups of sugar, and then we'll add 1 cup of all purpose flour. Then we'll add 2 pinches of salt, and we're going to whisk all of this together. Now, this recipe makes 3 9-inch deep dish pies, and I promise you're going to need all 3. So, other ingredients, we're going to use the Baker's Red Box, the semi-sweet chocolate. We're going to use 1.5 sticks of unsalted butter, and then you'll need a can of canned milk, the Carnation evaporated milk, and I'm using a non-stick pan. Then we'll add 2 cups of hot water into our pan over medium heat, and then add the butter and the chocolate. And what we're doing is just melting those and combining them together. If y'all have any questions or anything, be sure to comment and I'll be happy to answer. I appreciate y'all watching, so I'd love if y'all subscribed and shared. Now back to baking. So we've got our butter and our chocolate in the pan, and we're just going to get this melted, and then we'll add the entire can of evaporated milk. And another thing I love about this recipe is it's one that you don't really have to babysit. So what we're doing is adding the milk and just bringing that to a boil. Now, once you've got the milk added, I like to stir it just to make sure there's no chocolate that's going to stick to the bottom. And then we'll move over to our pie crust. So I promised this was going to be easy. You're more than welcome to make your pie crust if you'd like, but for this video, I'm using the Marie Callender's 9-inch deep dish pie crust. These bake up really nice. They're really buttery and flaky. So what we're going to do is I've got those on baking sheets, and we're going to add 1 cup of pecans to each of the pie crusts. Now you'll want your oven preheated to 325 degrees. And after we get our pecans added to the frozen pie crust, then we'll move over to our filling. Now the objective with this is to not bring it to like a rolling boil. You just want it to start bubbling, and then we're going to add that to our dry mixture. Now, this is the part where everybody starts stirring around asking what smells so good. And I promise it smells just as good as it's going to taste. So we've got this added to our dry mixture. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And we're going to whisk this together, but you want to make sure that you're not being too aggressive with it because we're melting the sugar and the flour is going to start thickening this filling up. So if you mix it too aggressively, you're going to have a bunch of bubbles. Now we're going to transfer this into our pie shells. So you just divide this out evenly, and like I said, it makes exactly 3 pies. And stick around to the end of the video because I'll show you how to, I like to use a little inexpensive pie box, and we're going to be adding a bow to that. So it's an easy way to add a little bit extra to it, especially if you're taking it somewhere. But like I said, this makes 3 pies, and you're going to be glad it does because you get to keep 1 at home, and then you'll have 2 to take to your holiday events. Now that we've got the filling poured over the pecans, I like to give them a little shimmy just to make sure that all of the pecans have floated up to the top. And then you can even go back with your whisk and just kind of tap those around to make sure there's no big holes, or arrange all the pecans so it looks nice and even. Now we're going to place these in our 325-degree oven for about 45 to 50 minutes, but every oven is different, so I always kind of like to check on them every 20 minutes or so and look how good they turn out. I'll turn them just so that they're heating evenly, and you can tell when they're done. You can just kind of nudge the baking sheet, and as long as there's no major jiggle, then they should be good to go. Now for the bow, if you know me, I'll put a bow on anything I can. So I got my inexpensive little pie box, and we're just going to loop some ribbon around the pie box. I have it loosely tied once, and then we're just going to make our loops for the bow. So I've got a tutorial that everybody really liked about how to easily make these bows, so no skills required. And we're just going to make our circle. You push that down in the middle, and then you just add a staple, and then we're going to repeat this step one more time. So I've got my circle. You can just kind of line it up to the one next to it and just make sure they're roughly about the same size, and we'll get that stapled as well. Then you're just gonna take your 2 loops, and we're going to lay those crossways over each other and just scrunch up the middle. And then we'll lay that over our first ribbon, and we're going to loosely tie that once. That way you can go in and kind of fluff out that knot to make it bigger, get that arranged. I have it kind of angled up in the corner, and then we'll fluff out our loops, and then you can dovetail the ribbon to finish it off even more. I think it's a nice way just to add something a little extra. But thank y'all so much for watching, and enjoy your holidays and your delicious chocolate pecan pie.